Talk in the trap is that Blueface just detonated the entire Chrisean Rock timeline in one live stream, and family, this ain't a rumor, this ain't a subtweet, this is a full confession dropped on camera with the receipt still warm. Sources close to the Rock camp are alleging that Blueface admitted on his own broadcast that he had been smashing Chrisean's own best friend, Jaidyn, the same Jaidyn everybody calls Croan, right under Chrisean's nose, and the second he said it out loud, the SWAT team rolled up on his front lawn like it was a scene out of a Netflix limited series. Alleged, sweetie, alleged. But the whole zoo done slipped its leash, and the timing is too clean to be a coincidence. Look, we all peeped that something was off in that camp for weeks. The vibes was funny. The lives was funny. Chrisean was funny. But nobody, and I mean nobody, had this on their July bingo card. Blueface, in the middle of an exchange with Chrisean Rock, said the quiet part on the mic, that he had been messing with Croan behind the scenes for a stretch of time and that Chrisean is now the one clocking that the man who still refuses to publicly claim baby Chrisean Jr. was, in her own kitchen, mixing business with betrayal. And matter of fact, the second Blueface let that confession fly, the timeline flipped upside down. Now here is where the whole zoo goes off leash. Talk out the trap is that Chrisean Rock, feeling the heat of that revelation, allegedly picked up the phone and made the call that no self-respecting street code allows, a fake 911 drop that sent a SWAT team charging up to the house Blueface shares with his mother, Karlissa. Blueface mama went straight to the internet and said it herself. She even opened up an AI chat window on live camera and typed the question, is a fake 911 call for a SWAT team a felony or a misdemeanor, and the answer that came back, sweetie, was the answer nobody in Chrisean's corner wanted read out loud. It's a felony. Full stop. And Karlissa captioned that screenshot like a woman on a mission, he might not press charges, but me and my husband on that lease, and I promise you somebody going to prison today. Alleged, family, alleged. But the tea is boiling. Let me rewind the whole zoo, because you need the shape of the thing before you can taste it. Before any SWAT team ever rolled up, before Blueface even opened his mouth to spill, Chrisean was already boiling in her own pot. The core of that pot has always been the same core. Blueface refuses, and has refused for what feels like an eternity of internet time, to publicly claim baby Chrisean Jr. as his own. That refusal is the fault line under everything. It is the thing that makes every argument between these two land like a body blow. It is the thing that turns every stray comment into a nuclear button. And Chrisean, worn down by that button being unpressed for so long, walked into the trap that ended with Blueface's own words weaponized against her. Blueface started the whole exchange by tossing a match. On his page he posted screenshots of private messages between him and Chrisean Rock and captioned them like a man who had already made his choice, the jig is up, you want to be a part of the circus so bad, but you want to act bigger than the program. That one sentence is the whole thesis of the beef. Blueface is saying Chrisean wants the fame of the ringmaster's chair but doesn't want the responsibility of showing up under the tent. And Chrisean, not one to be caption shamed, fired right back and posted her own screenshots of the same conversation, exposing the parts Blueface had cropped out. In her version of the messages, Chrisean asked Blueface plainly, do you have my glasses and my chain, because I want my property back. Blueface, cool as a shark in a pool, replied that he had the glasses but not the chain, and that if she ever wanted to swing by he'd hand them over. And then, and this is where it gets sticky, Blueface typed the three little words that always get somebody in trouble, I love you. He then added the sentence he clearly regrets, that he loves her the same way he told Croan he loved Croan. Read that twice, family. Read it 3 times if you need to. Chrisean, seeing that comparison land in her lap, tried to salvage the room. She typed back a piece offering that read like a woman staring at the last exit ramp, let's undo every single thing and get it right. And Blueface, being Blueface, responded with the coldest 3-word rejection in the game, you not for real. That was the moment the pot went from simmer to full rolling boil. Because Chrisean Rock, still processing that her name had just been rhymed off the same page as her best friend's, then dropped a bomb of her own into the exchange. She started implying, publicly, on camera, in the middle of a live broadcast that thousands were watching, that Blueface has been spending an unhealthy amount of time with a little boy who is not his biological son, more time than he has ever spent with his own children, and that the chat room on his lives has been noticing it too. Her exact words, in that raw voice she uses when the mask comes off, went something like this, you're spending more time with a little boy that's not even your kid, more than your own kids, and that's petty. Then she dug in, while you trying to hurt us, they clip farming and saying that you weird with that little boy, saying it's real weird. And she closed the barrel with the sentence that has now looped a million times, you see how bad you getting clipped because you want to do stuff out of pain, out of resentment, out of a reaction, you doing stuff demonically. Now, sweetie, let me be clear about what Chrisean was doing there, because the internet is going to spin this 5 different ways. Chrisean was floating the theory that the chat has been implying Blueface has an inappropriate closeness with the child of his current girlfriend, Jaidyn, and that the closeness is not out of genuine affection but out of spite aimed at Chrisean, spite aimed at their own son. And of course, Blueface is going to be around Jaidyn's kid, because he is with Jaidyn. That is basic math. But Chrisean was doing what Chrisean does. She was reaching for the sharpest knife on the table because she felt the sharpest one being pulled on her. And Blueface heard that knife slide out of the drawer and decided that if the gloves were coming off, his were coming off first. That is when the confession dropped. Blueface, live on camera, said it plain, that he had been smashing Croan, for a stretch, and that Chrisean already knew. His exact posture on the stream was a man who had nothing left to protect. And I'ma keep it a buck with y'all, his energy on that broadcast was not the energy of a man exaggerating for clicks. His energy was the energy of a man who was done. He said he'd scooped Croan and brought her to the crib. No problem. No questions asked. He said he told Chrisean plain, tell her to leave, and we can be a power couple, and let's do it right, and let's do it. Chrisean's answer on the stream, according to Blueface, was that she was not doing that. Her answer was, let's go crazy instead. And so they went crazy. And so somebody, and everybody in Blueface's household is convinced they know exactly who, dialed the number that changes the whole game. The bodycam and the doorbell audio from Blueface's property that night is now everywhere on the internet, and it is the kind of footage that plays like a psychological horror short. You hear the officers barking instructions. You hear Blueface, calm but confused, telling somebody, keep your hands down, keep walking back, stop. You hear his mother's voice cutting through the tension, my feet are hot. Because she is on the concrete without shoes. You hear an officer ask for the name and Blueface's response, my name's Jonathan, can you tell me what this is about? And then you hear the sentence that reframes the entire evening, oh, they swatted us. That right there, sweetie, is the sound of a household realizing that the beef has crossed a legal line. Now let's talk about who called the police. The chat says Chrisean. Fans on the timeline say Chrisean. And most damningly, Blueface's own mother, Karlissa, says Chrisean. Karlissa took to her page immediately after the incident and made her position clear. She believes Chrisean Rock is the one who dialed a fake 911, and she believes the SWAT deployment on her property is a prosecutable act. She went as far as asking an AI whether a fake SWAT call constitutes a felony or a misdemeanor. The screen showed the answer. It said yes, it is a felony. And Karlissa captioned the whole thing like a woman who had already lawyered up in her head, he might not press charges, but me and my husband on that lease, and I promise you somebody going to prison today. Truth be told, we don't have absolute confirmation that Chrisean Rock made that call. The Rock camp has not officially claimed it, and the police have not officially named a caller. But then here is the wrinkle that has fans in a chokehold. In some of the audio from that night, you can hear an officer state that the call came from inside the property. And the officers on scene were asking every person in the yard for their phone numbers. Which either means the fake call was placed by someone physically present at the address, a chilling detail on its own, or the caller spoofed their number to appear as if it originated from the property, which is an even darker level of intent. Either way, the whole zoo done slipped its leash. Anyway, love, let's zoom out for a beat, because this is bigger than one call and one confession. This is the natural end state of the whole Blueface and Chrisean saga, a saga that has been running like a demented reality show since day one. This is a couple whose entire relationship arc has been broadcast, monetized, dissected, and clipped for the algorithm. This is a couple that turned pregnancy announcements, breakups, cheating scandals, courtroom appearances, and jail visits into content. And whenever you weld two people together whose primary shared language is the camera, you end up with exactly this kind of ending. An ending that looks like a police report. Let's look at who Jaidyn, Croan, is in this puzzle, because a lot of casual viewers are missing that piece. Jaidyn is not a stranger to Chrisean Rock. Jaidyn is the friend, the confidant, the person who was in the room when Chrisean's most vulnerable months of pregnancy played out. That is what makes Blueface's confession particularly savage. It is not just an infidelity claim. It is a betrayal claim. It is the claim that the one female presence Chrisean trusted around Blueface was, allegedly, the one being smashed the whole time. And that betrayal is the reason the response was not a mixtape or a subtweet, it was, allegedly, a SWAT truck. Whispers out the six are also saying that Blueface's decision to publicly hover around Jaidyn's own child is not accidental. Some fans are reading it as a targeted psychological move, a deliberate performance of look what I'm doing for another woman's kid while refusing to do it for mine. Whether that reading is fair or unfair, that is the reading the algorithm has already run with. And Chrisean, being a mother watching that performance in real time, absorbed every frame of it. Which, sweetie, is exactly the kind of slow poison that ends in a phone call somebody wishes they could take back. Blueface, meanwhile, seems to be doubling down. On his stories after the SWAT dust settled, he was still going. Still typing. Still throwing screenshots. Still tagging. Still smashing that publish button like the past 48 hours were a warm-up. And every time Blueface publishes, Chrisean answers. And every time Chrisean answers, the chat multiplies. Which is exactly the loop the algorithm loves and exactly the loop that ends careers. Now here is the twist that is going to tie this whole cursed knot together. Some of the sharpest observers on the timeline are pointing out that Blueface's confession itself may have been a controlled demolition. That the man knew Chrisean was going to eventually go public with the Croan and Blueface theory anyway, and that he chose to detonate the truth first on his own terms, so that when Chrisean tried to weaponize it later, the news would be old. And if that's true, then the SWAT call, allegedly placed by Chrisean, was not a strategic response but a purely emotional one. A woman losing the narrative war in real time and pulling a switch she cannot unpull. Alleged, family, alleged. But it fits the pattern. And here is what really has the culture in a chokehold. Nobody in this cast is clean. Blueface is not clean, because a man who confesses on live camera to smashing his girlfriend's best friend is not, by any definition, the moral center of the room. Chrisean is not clean, because if she dialed a fake SWAT call, she pulled a trigger that could have gotten Blueface, Karlissa, or a random neighbor killed. Jaidyn is not clean, because if Blueface is telling the truth, she crossed a line that friendships don't come back from. And Karlissa is not clean either, because a mother threatening prison via caption on a phone screen is not exactly the picture of a de-escalating parent. That is the reason this story is not going to die in the news cycle. This story has no villain the audience can safely hate and no hero the audience can safely love. And when a story runs out of cleanly assignable morality, sweetie, it doesn't end. It just keeps generating clips. Now let me point out the thing everyone is dancing around. Chrisean Rock is a young mother in the eye of a tornado she partially chose, and Blueface is a young father in the eye of a tornado he definitely chose. Baby Chrisean Jr is the one entity in this cast with zero say in any of the above. And every time Blueface refuses to publicly acknowledge that child, and every time Chrisean weaponizes that refusal into content, the person paying the tax on the transaction is a toddler who cannot yet spell his own last name. Anyway, love, that's not moralizing. That's just the receipt. Blueface has been on this arc for a long time. This is the same Blueface who has been in and out of courtrooms, in and out of altercations, in and out of viral cycles for years. This is the same Blueface who once had a lawyer publicly beg him to stop tweeting during his own criminal case. This is the same Blueface who reportedly ran a house of content that included Chrisean, that included Jaidyn, that included a rotating cast of women monetized on live camera. And the moment you build a business model around chaos, sweetie, the chaos eventually invoices you. Chrisean, on her side, has been fighting to be seen as more than a Blueface accessory since the very first day the internet met her. She has recorded music, sold out venues, and built her own following. But every time her name trends, the trending is tethered to him. And the trending she just earned this week, the trending that has her name in the same headline as the words fake SWAT call, is the trending nobody in her camp wanted. That kind of trending doesn't sell tickets. That kind of trending pulls sponsors, pulls custody attorneys, pulls federal attention. Now here is the whispers out the six moment. Multiple fans on the timeline are already asking whether the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department will trace the call and identify the number. Because if they can, and modern spoof tracing tools mean they usually can, Chrisean's camp is either going to have to produce a very clean alibi or a very expensive lawyer. Fake SWAT calls have gotten people killed. Fake SWAT calls have ended careers. Fake SWAT calls have converted celebrities into criminal defendants overnight. And the very quiet reality is that federal statutes on swatting have hardened dramatically over the last 2 years. Karlissa is not exaggerating when she says prison. She is not being dramatic. She is reading the statute out loud. Meanwhile, Blueface, family, Blueface is sitting on that lawn in the aftermath, giving the officer his legal first name, "My name's Jonathan," and processing the fact that his life just got flipped by the same person he was 2 weeks ago pleading with to do it right. Let's do it right, let's be a power couple. That plea, in retrospect, is the saddest sentence of the whole broadcast. Because it is the sound of a man who thought he could close loop a chaos he opened himself. Anyway, sweetie, let's put the whole puzzle back together in the order it happened, because the timeline matters here. Blueface refuses to claim his son with Chrisean. Chrisean seethes about it publicly. Blueface goes live and posts messages designed to make Chrisean look unhinged. Chrisean fires back with her own messages, exposing the parts Blueface cropped. Blueface types "I love you" in the same energy he apparently used with Jaidyn. Chrisean pivots and floats the accusation that Blueface's proximity to Jaidyn's child is unhealthy. Blueface, humiliated by that specific accusation, escalates to nuclear and confesses on camera that he had been smashing Jaidyn the whole time. Someone in Chrisean's orbit, allegedly Chrisean herself, picks up a phone and dials a fake 911. The SWAT team rolls up on Blueface and Karlissa. Karlissa hits the internet with the legal breakdown and the promise of a lawsuit. And the algorithm, watching all of this, drops a shovel of coal into the fire and cackles. Now, before we close this thing out, let me float one more theory that the smartest voices in the group chat are already testing. Some observers are saying that the reason Blueface confessed so recklessly on stream is that he is trying to close a window before Chrisean opens it. Meaning, Blueface may have suspected Chrisean was about to publish evidence of the Croan situation on her own timeline, and he wanted to be the one to break it first, so that he owned the narrative and she was reduced to reacting. If that theory is true, then Chrisean's alleged SWAT call is not just an emotional lash-out. It is the response of a woman who realized, in real time, that she had been narrative-flanked. The SWAT is the sound of a woman losing the story and reaching for the loudest tool in the room. The other theory floating out of the six is even more chilling. Some are saying the whole confession was staged content between Blueface and Jaidyn to break Chrisean psychologically, that Blueface never actually smashed Jaidyn but performed the confession as a targeted psychological operation designed to trigger a felony-tier response from Chrisean and neutralize her as a co-parent, custody adversary, and rival brand. That theory sounds unhinged until you remember that these are people whose entire romantic history has been staged content. Once staged content becomes your only vocabulary, sweetie, staged content is what your life becomes. I'm not sold on either theory. What I am sold on is the fact that a toddler is somewhere in the middle of all this and cannot vote on any of it. Now Blueface people are telling anyone who will listen that they intend to pursue charges regardless of whether Blueface himself signs off. Karlissa's caption is receipts on that. The leash she referenced is real. The legal standing is real. The county attention is real. And if the number gets traced and it lands on Chrisean's device or on a device connected to her orbit, the next headline in this saga is going to have a case number attached to it. That's not a threat. That's a schedule. Chrisean's team has said almost nothing on the record. That silence, sweetie, is either the smartest move her camp has made in 6 months, or it is the sound of a legal team asking her to put the phone down for the first time in her adult life. Either read holds. And now for the sentence that is going to loop under every clip of this story for the next 2 weeks, this is not the ending. This is the middle. Because the internet doesn't do endings on couples like this. The internet does chapters. And the chapter that started with a screenshot ended with a SWAT team. So imagine what the next chapter opens with. Because if the pattern holds, and the pattern always holds, the next chapter opens with an arrest, or a lawsuit, or a custody filing, or a viral apology, or a new smash confession involving a third name we haven't put on the board yet. Anyway, family, that's the whole zoo laid out on the table. Sound off in the comments and tell me which side of this circus you are standing on. Do you believe Blueface actually smashed Jaidyn, or do you think that confession was a controlled demolition to nuke Chrisean's narrative? Do you think Chrisean Rock dialed the fake 911, or do you think somebody in her orbit dialed it for her and let her take the heat? Do you think Karlissa is going to actually walk that felony charge all the way to a courtroom, or is that caption just internet steam? Drop your take below. Because whatever side you land on, the next chapter of this saga is already being typed on somebody's phone as we speak. And when it drops, sweetie, you already know I'll be right here breaking it down for you. Beloved, keep your notifications on, and tell somebody in your group chat that the zoo is officially off leash. Equals 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 equals. End of script.